Good morning. On behalf of all of the sisters, I wish you a very happy and blessed feast of our Holy Mother, Saint Teresa of Avila. We are delighted that you are here to celebrate with us this morning. A few weeks ago, I received a call from my 5-year-old nephew, Sam. He said, "Aunt Celia, I have a very important question for you." Intrigued and eager to hear more, I listened intently as he continued. "Where does God stay when he's not sitting next to you?" Finding myself torn between asking, "Why do you think God is a man?" and "Do you feel God sitting next to you?" I went with the latter, and Sam replied, "Yes, I feel God sitting next to me, but where does he stay when he's not sitting next to you?" This, of course, reminded me of Teresa's own recounting of God's felt presence bodying forth next to her. In chapter 27 of her life, she writes, "I felt Christ beside me. I saw nothing with my bodily eyes or with my soul, but it seemed to me that Christ was at my side. It seemed to me that Jesus Christ was always present at my side. I didn't see any form, yet I felt very clearly that he was always present at my right side, and that he was the witness of everything I did." As I went on to attempt to give Sam an answer that his 5-year-old mind might be able to grasp, I explained how God is inside each of us, and that sometimes when we are really paying attention, we can feel God with our very bodies sitting next to us. That God is the friend we can always turn to, and that God is not only within us, God is all around us and between us, drawing us closer together into deeper relationship with God and with one another in a force field and web of love. Sam is a fan of Spider-Man and Star Wars, so webs and force fields are right up his alley. As we know, Teresa had many experiences of embodied prayer, which served to stretch her soul, making her more and more capable of containing Christ's very life within her. In and through her writings, she has gifted us with both a recounting of her own unique experience of God, as well as a language that helps us better understand and attempt to articulate our own experiences of God. Teresa was an incredibly determined person who possessed a deep love of God and a very strong personality, both of which led her to make 17 foundations before her death at the age of 67, and to speak out against the injustices of her day. Teresa stressed the absolute necessity of prayer, and she believed that the contemplative life was especially necessary in times of social and ecclesial conflict. In chapter 21 of The Way of Perfection, Teresa writes, "To those who want to journey on this road and continue until they reach the end, which is to drink from this water of life, I say how you are to begin is very important, in fact, all important. You must have a great and very determined determination to persevere until reaching the end. Come what may, happen what may, whatever work is involved, whatever criticism arises, whether you arrive or whether you die on the road, or even if you don't have the courage for the trials that are met, or if the whole world collapses." With walking stick in hand, she tells us we must continue on. We are living in a time when it feels as though the whole world is collapsing, or at the very least, unraveling. The conflict, division, injustice, hatred, violence, and suffering seem endless and at times too heavy to bear. Yet we must continue on. Don't let anyone deceive you, Teresa writes, by showing you a road other than that of prayer. what does the pain of the world call forth from us, the daughters and friends of Teresa in 2020? The Teresian scholar Gillian Algren writes, "Fidelity to God entails a mutual fidelity to the God present in the human community, to the body of Christ, particularly in its suffering forms. This kind of fidelity necessitates not only a compassionate response to human beings, but also a proactive and protective stance toward the defense of human dignity and the capacity of all to flourish." During this time of pandemic and societal unrest, our community has been engaged in a more intentional contemplative practice that focuses our attention on the God dwelling among and between us, drawing us into deeper relationship with one another and widening a field of communion, a web of love into which others can be drawn, healed, and transformed. As we begin our liturgy today, I invite you to ground yourself in whatever space you're in. Become aware of God's presence within you, God's presence beside you. Then allow God to draw you into the space, the field of energy, the web of love, created by the presence of God among and between us all. Lean into this space with great faith and intentionality, trusting that what radiates out is just what the world needs at this very moment.